Swanglin Show. Episode. It's episode 45 of the fucking Swanglin Show. Joshua P. Dunn. Today the P is for Pussy Boy because we're talking about school shooters and the Second Amendment and we're talking about gun control and shit and it's going down on the fucking Swangler. I am joined today via old school phone call style. You can't see his fucking soggy ass, but you can hear him. It's the Fickle Freckle Boy out there in Cary, Ohio, representing that fucking youth soccer fucking guru. Kyle Holsinger, what's happening?
Loving life. Glad to be here. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Hopefully it's enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Same to you, bro.
We're going to point out that the Conspiracy Family's own King of the Wing has rejoined us once again, draped the fuck out in his Memorial Day red, white, and blue fit out there in
I just
the 513.
I ain't even peeped that I put red, white, and blue on today.
It's just so ironic. You know, we're going to talk about the
crazy.
Second Amendment. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment, and here comes CJ Dinero, red, white, and blued up, like a new age hacksaw Jim Duggan, maybe, presenting a threat to the man that's always in the house representing for the fucking Miami Heat, MrGrippz, the Swanglin heavyweight champion, the superstar of David, the young Dan Marley. What's happening?
You already know. Game 7 tonight. We taking that.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have to see. And the listeners of the Swanglin Show, they know we do this shit in advance. So we know. Don't comment some stupid shit like, oh, you guys are late, blah, 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 in the game. We know what the fuck's going on. We're going to be watching it tonight, as a matter of fact. And we're also going to be probably watching AEW pay-per-view that's going on tonight as well. It's jam-packed. It's going down for Memorial Day weekend. But I'm feeling blessed and feeling great and feeling wonderful that I'm joined by the homies once again on episode 45 of the Swanglin Show that you can catch at every fucking outlet that your mind can imagine, plus swanglin.com. I got the fucking champ in the house. I got the Fickle Freckle Boy, the homecoming king in the house, and the official King of the Wing is joining me. So today, my guys, I want to talk to you guys about some wild shit that's been going on in the news, man. This conversation is kind of sparked by that fucking random fucking school shooting shit that just happened in Uvalde, Texas, where this fucking little son of a bitch murks his grandma, goes to a fucking elementary school, murks, what is it, 15 kids, Kyle, total?
I think it's like 19.
Yeah, it was 19 and two teachers.
Okay, so this little son of a bitch busts off a 21-person body count. And this isn't, you know, the first time that this shit has happened in the United States. It's actually starting to become extremely common in the United States that people do these like large group shootings, especially within the educational setting and shit, and it's becoming really fucking alarming and really fucking strange. We know that, like, and we've talked about this shit on episodes of the Swanglin Show before, we know we live in a fucking dangerous society. We know that people are violent. We know that people are aggravated. People are irritated and shit. You know what I'm saying? But, Vice, what do you think about this shit? From a Swanglin Heavyweight Championship bowl hitter's perspective, we got to know. Like, what do you think about this, like, fucking phenomenon, this raging fucking phenomenon of school shootings in the United States?
It's bullshit. After the first one, it should have been fucking something done, you know, on a legislative level. The people in charge are fucking not doing anything for the people. I mean, you know, you have like 90% or maybe more, regardless of their political affiliation, like 90% of the United States wants like stricter laws and restrictions to buy a gun. I mean, it's easier to get a gun when you're 18 than it is to get a driver's license, which is bullshit. So, you know, I mean, you can kill people with a car or a truck or whatever where you're driving, but you can kill people with guns. So, like, just the accessibility, and it's mainly because our politicians are in the fucking NRA and gun manufacturers' pockets. All the lobbyists pay these cocksuckers, and, you know, they just do whatever's good for the corporations, and it's literally costing children's lives. It's disgusting.
I agree that not only is it disgusting and it's alarming that this shit is happening at such a high frequency in the United States, and like if you look at the time frame in which it started happening, I believe actually that one of the first large scale like educational campus shootings that happened was in Marinated Mitch's hometown, Jonesboro, Arkansas, I believe, was one of the first big ones that happened that kicked off that whole fucking crazy deal and concept, to where now, like, we've seen the fucking Columbine shit where mass people lost their lives. We just saw this Uvalde, Texas shit where people fucking just lost mass fucking lives. And I'm reading all these different articles and shit. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this shit, but now they're like even questioning the police's response in reaction to the way that this scenario was handled with the active
As they should.
Yeah, as they should. And while we have the fickle freckle boy living in the fucking sea on the line, I gotta know, Kyle, do you think that the more and more that these instances happen of these mass shootings in the educational setting, do you think that this will be the centerpiece that is used to really define like some taking away some Second Amendment rights as far as being a firearm holder?
Like, I don't think Second Amendment rights will be taken. I think that they will be regulated. There's like two big parts to the Second Amendment. That if you read it, and then if you look at like case study as far as Supreme Court ruling on it, in 2008, there was a particular ruling they made where they talked about traditional gun use or gun ownership. So there's two parts to how this is interpreted. There's the well-regulated militia, which is mentioned in the Second Amendment, and what do we define as an American people, what is a well-regulated militia? And then also, we have to define based off of the 2008 Supreme Court ruling. I don't know the case number off the top of my head, or the case name on the top of my head, but we also have to define as Americans what is traditional gun ownership. Because if gun collecting guns is a part of gun ownership, then people can use the fact that they're collecting guns as a way to keep AR-15s, AK-47s, semi-automatic and automatic weaponry, as long as their state allows it. They're allowed to keep that then, as long as you can file that under traditional gun ownership under the 2008 ruling that the Supreme Court did. We as a people need to stop and answer those two questions. What's a well-regulated militia? And then what is traditional gun ownership? And regulate those from there to stop this.
That's two very good fucking points and things that we definitely need to focus in on to be able to define those things. But as you mentioned, fucking semi-automatic and the chopper, boom, in comes that motherfucker representing Jonesboro, Arkansas, who can flip the flow in such a quick way. I've seen it happen. This Marinated Mitch Millions is in the building. Marinated Mitch.
What it do? Salute. Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah,
trying to get this money.
Comfortably late, as always. Now,
Man.
Marinated Mitch, before you jumped in the call, we were talking about the school shooting epidemic shit that fucking happens so regularly now in the United States. And I mentioned that I believe the first one in the United States, the jump-off point, happened in Jonesboro, didn't it?
Correct. Jonesboro, Arkansas, West Side School. Yeah,
so
I want to say it's about 22, 23 years ago, something like that. And that was crazy because like every time I kept going out of town, you know what I'm saying, when I referred that I was from Jonesboro, people would always, that was the first thing they said, oh, where the school shooting happened. And when I say that it was devastating for the community, man, like it's still people are still mourning over that same shooting, man. Like I said, that was 23, 24 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, shit, trauma doesn't just go away. You know what I'm saying? If you witness something like that, that sticks with you until you come to terms with how to deal with it for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's the crazy part, is when these things happen, so many people get impacted and so many people get their lives changed forever off of somebody else's just like complete insecurity, right? And like, I've been aware of a lot of these shootings when they happen, and like, you look at the fucking breakdowns of these fucking kids that do this shit, dude, and they're clearly fucking pussies and shit, and you're like, man, like, why do you think, Mitch, that people take it to the furthest extent like that?
With kids, I think it's just lack of understanding from parenting and friends or peers. You as a kid, you know what I'm saying, you don't really know the whole world and what's really going on. All you know is what you're exposed to. And the only way you know how to cope with things is if you have a support system or some type of peers or parents that, know how to show you support. We have a lot of parents out now who I feel like don't really know how to be a parent. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it's because most of them didn't have parents. Like myself, I had to trial and error everything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still doing it with my kids to try to teach them and raise them how I think is to be right. But like I said, I still really don't know. I've always had to, learn to be a man and learn to do everything on my own. And so I just think that having a strong background, with parental guidance, knowing what your kids are doing, teaching them, you know what I'm saying, when they get in their feelings, how to cope with it or who they can come talk to, instead of just saying it.
Now, CJ, you also, like, just like Mitch, you guys both have families, you know what I'm saying? You guys are like a fucking parental patriarch figure within the lives of little boys and little girls, you know what I'm saying? Kids. Does it make you uneasy, CJ, to see this shit happen, to think that maybe it could happen in the school district where your kids are at?
Yeah, because shit, my kids are in Finley, so it's like Finley is like a target demographic for it because it's a small town, a lot of political bullshit in that town. People with mental health issues, they got problems and shit. So it's kind of a hotbed, of course, racism and shit to deal with. Sure. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think about. I think the schools and just the whole system, they need to do a better job of like locking shit up. Like, because, my kids, their school, you gotta get buzzed in, but they don't really check shit before they buzz you in. Like, so I don't have to put an ID to check my kid out, none of that shit. Like, they just buzz you, they see a parent, what they think is a parent, buzz you right in, and boom, you in there. So if I'm a shooter, that's easy. That ain't no issue. So it's like that shit is, it does. You got to think about it because this shit goes on way too much in the U.S.
Now it seems like in some instances, these people that do these mass shootings, they get fucking killed by the police at the fucking scene, and then some of these little son of a bitches that do like the fucking hate crime shootings, they somehow just get arrested and don't get killed. You know what I mean? Which doesn't make any fucking sense to me at all because I feel like it raises another fucking point. Like the people that are these first responders, right? The police officers, the whatever it is, the people that are supposed to be the crisis prevention, right? When these people sign up for their jobs to be in the military or be in the police, they're still a human being, you know what I mean? So like people will question it and kind of belittle the character of a police officer or of somebody in that role if they're not quick to just like jump in the line of fire. But you got to think, they're a human being too. They don't want to die just as much as you don't want to die. So do you think when they sign up for that job, they completely remove that vice, or do you think that we should have some room to give these people to understand the human element of what they're doing?
Nah, I mean, if you sign up for that shit, that's what you sign up for.
Yeah.
It's just like me when I went to the military.
Yep.
Yeah, when I went to the military, I knew what I was getting into.
I believe it should only be military trained personnel though that's been overseas and that's been in that atmosphere, with gunfires blazing and stuff like that, because you got people when they hear them gunshots, they act two totally different ways, you know what I'm saying? So you got to have somebody that's used to it, you know what I'm saying, to be able to do any kind of help, to be truthfully honest. Because if not, they're just going to have adrenaline rush, you know what I'm saying, and they're not going to make the best choices and decisions.
Vice, what do you think?
That's just the situation with cops in general. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, you're not going to have every cop be ex-military, and you wouldn't want every cop to be ex-military because then they might be dealing with civilians the same way they would be dealing with enemy combatants, and it's two different interactions. You know what I'm saying?
I agree, but then I also like most of my military friends with a lot of these killings that's going on. They said that they would be getting in trouble if they did this in overseas. Like there's some things that like you can't just kill somebody overseas and just get away with it sometimes, man. Sometimes you can. I agree. Sometimes you can because I know that their laws are different and we're just over there doing what we got to do, But I've heard plenty of my military friends say that I couldn't do that in the military,
Yeah.
Oh no, you can't. You can't. No, hell no.
There's a rules
Yeah,
of
go-
engagement that military have,
Yeah.
and that there's a protocol to how you approach someone and engage somebody, and it's a lot more strict than what the police officers have as far as their rules of engagement.
I think
Yeah.
because as a police officer, you would be acting on behalf of that county, and as a military personnel, you're acting on behalf of the United States, and they expect you to act a certain kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Does that sound right, CJ, as ex-military?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you represent the country, so it's way different than being a cop.
Oh, dude, you want to talk about representing the country? I was thinking the other day about 4th of July is coming up, fellas. You know, wonderful holiday to spend time with your family, do some barbecuing, maybe do some grilling and chilling, maybe fucking dive head first into that swimming pool. You know what I'm saying? I can see right now, MrGrippz probably has that overhand fucking breaststroke, dude, that looks Olympic level. You know what I mean? On the 4th of July, I'm thinking about what I can do to have the most patriotic fit that I could possibly have for 4th of July. So I'm going to institute a challenge right now between the brethren of the illustrious motherfucking conspiracy family. Between all of us, we're going to have a contest. Who's got the most patriotic fit on the 4th of July for the Swanglin Show? And we're going to let the listeners vote. Marinated Mitch is involved. CJ Dinero's in this motherfucker, King of the Wing. The Swanglin heavyweight champion. He's going to be dripped out for USA, USA, USA. And we're going to see what's popping. We're going to see what you guys think about that. Kyle, what do you think you're going to do for your fit for 4th of July?
Dude, I'm gonna try to go Uncle Sam, but it'll probably be too hot with the top hat and the suit. So I'll probably have to do some Uncle Sam type stuff and make it with some shorts and like a tank top.
So you're going to be out here pretty much with the whole Apollo Creed fit on, but it's going to be the Newkleus coming at you strong. Now, my friends, since this most recent school shooting happened, right? There's a lot of people talking about like gun reform in the United States, talking about we need to have stricter regulations on who can purchase a weapon. We need to have limited quantities in which people can possess of weapons and only certain type of weapon specifications. Now, I'm sure plenty of members of the conspiracy family are probably firearm owners by their own United States right. I would imagine that some people within the conspiracy family are not allowed to be gun owners because they've had that right stripped from them. So I feel like this is a hot button topic. I feel like, what do you guys think about the concept of maybe them kind of starting to restrict more what you can carry and what you can't carry as far as having firearms?
I don't got no problem with it.
I don't either.
I feel like it needs to be more thorough.
Yeah, it needs to be like, you know, they don't just hand you a driver's license. You got to pass a test type shit. You know, right now you could just go buy a gun and that's it. At least in Florida, you could just go to Walmart, pick you up a rifle if you're 18, and they do a little background check. After a couple of days, you go grab it. It's yours. End of story. You don't have to show that you know how to use it. You don't have to pass any kind of mental screening. There's no tests. There's nothing.
What I would like to know is like the statistics of these shooters that actually owned the gun, that like the actual gun is registered in their name when they did the shooting. Because I'm not thinking that these are all in their names. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So
I would say it's a pretty low statistic, being that most of them are juveniles.
To me, laws to getting them shouldn't change. I believe everybody should have a gun. In my opinion, I believe that if everybody had a gun, all these breaking and enterings and burglaries wouldn't happen because they know these motherfuckers got guns too, bro. You know, and then like where I'm from Arkansas, man. Like they raise kids with shotguns and shit like that, duck hunting and different types of hunting. Like I know young kids that are 7, 8 years old and they can peck some shit, bro. And I'm talking, and they know how to use it properly, you know. But they're just 7, you know. It all comes back, like I said, the parenting, man, the respectfulness in the parenting, teaching your kids that respect and the responsibilities of how to use and how to carry it.
Well, and
Because
that's
I believe if it's used right, man, it's a wonderful world, in my opinion. Just saying.
I agree. I'm with you 100%. But the problem is, how do you regulate parents? Because a lot of parents are pieces of shit, and they raise pieces of shit children. And then you get what this
I
is.
agree.
I mean,
but there's always been pieces of shit parents though since the beginning of time. Only thing difference
fact.
now is that the social media, is coming in with it, and that respect boundary is getting thrown out. When grandmothers are passing away, that family bond and the respect between the family bond gets thrown out. And then now you have parents trying to raise kids more like friends instead of like parents. And so that, and one of the quotes they used to always say is, it takes a village to raise a child. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, you see a kid doing something wrong, you might try to say something to him, and then his mom might get mad now and say, you ain't his mom, I'm his mama, and that didn't happen back in the day. We still had that respect boundary, and then when somebody said something about your mama, you still, yes, ma'am, or you did what you had to do because you knew she was going to go tell your mama.
Kids used to listen to adults a lot more. Now, if you just a random adult, they're like, who the hell are you? Don't talk to my kid like that. You know what I'm saying?
They're starting to become too much friendly with their kids instead of teaching them that respect part. And then whenever they get around other adults, there's no respect like that because it's straight. It was friendly with their mama, So now it's straight. Who does you? You ain't my mama, and that brings more and more problems and more disrespect and more violence. Regardless, that respect goes a long way, and it just trickles down through everything we do in life.
Yeah.
What I think you're like getting at with the Mitch with the kids and stuff is like responsible gun ownership, man. And we have law-abiding citizens who do respect the Second Amendment, are responsible gun owners, teach their kids the proper ways, and then we have people that are irresponsible gun owners. And what we're having here in this clash in the country is these NRA people are sitting there going, we are law-abiding citizens, we follow the rules, we do all this, we shouldn't have our guns taken away from us. Now, when you get in, there's nothing wrong with like hunting and stuff like that, but when we start talking about AR-15s, we start talking about stuff that's not for hunting, that's for killing. That's where this line is going to happen. Because like
to me, I agree with them too. For the simple fact is, we got to arm ourselves just in case. What if our government fucks us? Then what are we gonna do?
Well, See,
government and your neighbors. Fuck. I mean, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. The Jack Boys are for real. Like, you could just look like a target and they could just decide, you know what I'm saying? If you don't got firepower,
exactly.
You could, you know what I'm saying? You could die, like, for real. And down here,
so if you're a responsible gun owner, you should be able to protect yourself. As long as you're doing the right things, you should be able to carry, or, you should be able to, within your rights, carry to protect yourself. I have no issues with that. And most people, I don't think most people have an issue with that. I mean, there probably are some that are like, destroy all guns. I do believe that there are bad guys will always get guns too. Where we're at, though, as a country, is we need to come somewhere in the middle here, because it's like, I'll even throw a bone to the gun owners, dude. It's like, if you're responsible and you handle an AR-15 properly, who's to say that you can't have that gun if you're using it respectful? But what happens is we got these motherfuckers like the Vegas shooter who was stockpiling everything. He did everything. He was a law-abiding gun owner until he wasn't. You get what I'm saying?
No,
so how do we stop?
That was a fucking CIA
stop
op.
that?
We don't want to go into that.
You're talking about stockpiling too, like here in Arkansas.
That was military.
Man,
that dude was military.
I know people with 200 plus guns. You know what I'm saying? And then they just pass them down to their kids and their grandkids. So like they're keeping 200 plus guns in their arsenal. And I'm talking, this is actually kind of common around these parts. Like everybody I know.
You're allowed to pass down guns and family. That's part of the Second Amendment, is to be able to pass down family heirlooms, a gun to grandpa had, and this and that. So that's part of it, like, of gun ownership, and they do collect them like that. So you are right, and there's nothing wrong with that until they're no longer a law-abiding citizen with it.
And here's another hairy area of the whole argument, is when it comes to defining what is necessary and capable of being the tool of defending yourself. Because they say it's like, okay, everybody should be able to have a firearm to be able to defend themselves. And we all agree, like, that's 100. We agree that everybody should be strapped out here because we live in a crazy fucking time and place. You know what I mean? But if if everybody, say you're the Swanglin heavyweight champion and you're in South Florida and it's a known thing that everybody's got fucking assault rifles and you got a pistol, you don't stand a chance. So technically, it don't matter. Like, you're talking about being able to protect yourself in that scenario. Wouldn't it take equal firepower? So at what part does that get questioned? Is what is defining being able to defend yourself?
That's the same thing with us military.
For sure.
Yeah. We don't got the firepower. We don't got the firepower to outman the military. It's the same kind of deal, but we do.
Well, if you're talking about the military turning on citizens, well, that's like a worst case scenario. We would hope that the military who is made up of citizens would fucking tell whoever's telling them, to go fuck themselves. So, and
as always in the history of our country, has so far kind of worked. When the few instances where something like that could happen, for the most part, they've stood down.
Yeah,
and I would imagine they always will, because that's the respect and that's the founding principle of what the freedoms of the United States are supposed to be, in my opinion.
If you go back far enough, you got Wounded Knee massacre. No one stood down then, But those. But modern history.
I was thinking, watch riots when National Guard got called in and they were dropping citizens in the streets. You know what I'm saying? The LA riots after the Rodney King trials and everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was definitely some. But look, you would hope on a mass scale, because those were like isolated incidents. It wasn't like mass scale. You would hope that it would never come to that. But if you're just talking about protection, digressing back to what we were talking about, our military, it's the reason we spend so much on the military budget, so we can out-army everyone on the planet if we needed to. And that's kind of on a smaller scale what happens in, if someone decided they didn't like me and pulled up to my crib, mad deep, 10, 12 people, I wouldn't really even be worried about it, because I have the firepower to be able to match whatever's out there. You know what I'm saying? Even on the Dolo tip, because, we heated heavy over here. But at the end of the day, it's like, it depends on, because how do you regulate it? You can't change laws, because laws only affect law-abiding citizens. People in the streets who aren't living by laws are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to have access to the stuff that you're not going to have access to,
regardless of what the laws are.
And unless for that, the only way you get to truly restrict it, which will never, let me fucking put this up front, it'll never happen. But the only way you truly restrict it is regulate the amount of guns that are allowed to be manufactured and sold every year. But how are you going to regulate free capitalist companies? These are companies that are making products that if they sell, if people got money to buy it, you know what I'm saying, they're going to sell it. It's like telling Dodge they can't put out, Rams anymore. Like, you got to limit to 100 Rams a year. You're going to be like, fuck you. We're making our Rams. Like, I don't know.
Like here in Arkansas, we also got a lot of people that make their own guns, like from scratch, So like it's never gonna stop anything around here. But another issue I wanted to talk about was also, like, think of how many of these shooters had mental disorders, or were on some kind of pharmaceutical. Mental health is at an all-time high right now. And I think that plays a more important part in it to the actual gun.
Well, you got multiple aspects right now, specifically because the pandemic was bad for people with mental health. Like, my sister suffers from various mental illnesses, and she had a hard time during the pandemic. She was a soldier, though, and she got through it, but being locked up, isolated, everything that came with being safe during the pandemic was not healthy for those with mental health issues. So right now is a very, very stressful time for people, who are not strong in their mentality, in their mental health and wellness. But another thing is, like, other countries have mental health issues too. A lot of times is what they say, they don't have the school shootings over there because we have more access to guns. There's mental health issues everywhere. But what people don't remember when they say that is that other countries have, like, universal health care, way easier, cheaper access to healthcare. Like, even if they don't have free healthcare, it's not as like privatized and out of reach for those that are lower income. Yeah, that's just so expensive.
Overpriced.
Yeah, everything in America, like you can get the same prescription drug in another company will be 10, or another country from the same company will be 10 times cheaper. But when they sell it over here, they tax us because there's no laws saying they can't.
Yeah.
If we had more access and more, like, if kids that felt like that, like I can't even process the thought of, you know, I'm so, like, I could understand suicide. Like, I was a teenager, you know, had depressed times in high school where those thoughts come into your mind. I never seriously considered it, but I can understand it. But going and looking at little children and pulling the trigger on them over and over and over again, like, there's no way that I can wrap my head around something as ridiculous and abhorrent as that.
Oh yeah, dude, that is a clear-cut case of mental health issue. On top of that shooter killed his own grandmother.
With the gun shit, we never gonna be able to control the gun shit, honestly, because it's too much of a money maker in America, and that's all this fucking country is about, is making money.
Facts.
But if we're not gonna do that, we gotta find a way to protect the schools better, because down in Texas, in an area called Baytown, my girl, she lived down there, and how their schools is, because Baytown is like where Exxon, all the big mobile gas and all that shit is at the big plants. So it's a wealthy town, wealthy area, but they got multiple schools there, and they got their own mini police force in this area that patrols the schools and shit. And the way to get in, it's like 3 doors you got to get through just to get in. And say if you get through all of them, get through most of them, when you get to the last one, it's the secretary and the police officers right there. So if you was to kill the secretary at the second door, you can't get in through that third door now. And then when you do, if you were to get in, the class doors, when they close, they lock automatically, and the glass is bulletproof.
Yep.
Now the only downside to that shit is it looks like a prison inside the school, kinda, but the kids are protected. And they've never had no shooting down there, but they just ahead of the time with the shit by protecting these kids in case something does happen.
And that's smart.
And then,
you have to have suppression systems. It's like anything, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And they can easily do it. You know, they spend mad money and they allocate money in different ways. They need to reallocate some of those county, city funds to the public schools and to really keep kids safe. Like, you know, it would be good if they could have at least one officer at every school, you know, or even a private security, like in a bank or a cash delivery service, something like that. They have an armed guard, at least one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I mean, but who knows? Who's to say that's even going to do any good? Because look at the cops in Texas. It took them 90 minutes to engage the shooters.
They sat there. They listened to those kids get gunned down, screaming for help, getting killed. Parents trying to, you know, one parent I heard told the cop, "Give me your vest and your gun. Not going in my damn self."
Yeah.
And they pushing the parents back. Like, they listening to their kids getting slaughtered while y'all sitting here doing nothing because y'all don't want to get shot. Why the fuck are you a cop?
It's ridiculous. It's disgusting.
What are you doing?
It's embarrassing. Fuck them pigs that didn't go in.
That's how most cops are around here, bro. They ain't finna do nothing. They finna let them have that little word out. And then whenever it's all said and done, then they're going to come in and collect their evidence and charge you.
Under the guise of being tactical.
Yeah. So you gotta look at it from a different way. And it, even if you did, let's say you had a great cop in, let's say it's a small town, it's a school, it's happening, and a great cop gets called, and he's like, I don't care what my chief says, I'm not waiting for backup, I'm going in there and I'm taking him out, you know, like a lone wolf or whatever. His response time, how long is it going to take him to get there from wherever he is? You got to protect the schools at the school. Like you said, security measures on the doors. Like I saw a video released by a news station where they had communication with the dispatcher for the cops in every classroom. They could hit an emergency switch, and the intercom system that they used to call the office to call security or whatever, they could flip and call dispatch at the local sheriff's department. You know what I'm saying? Like they said, and they even had like a gas suppression system. So if they had an emergency, they could lock all the classroom doors with deadbolts. The glass was bulletproof. And then in the hallway, drop this like smoke that disoriented anyone that breathed it in. The whole system cost like $400,000. And they said, you know, you think that's expensive, but on average, schools spent millions of dollars just on their athletic programs, you know, football and shit. So it's like,
Facts.
and you can even take money out of like other areas of, you know, budgets in the city. The problem is a lot of these commissioners and people line their pockets. So funding for schools and things like this falls to the wayside. But it's like, how many more kids are going to get sacrificed?
Right, but I feel like in those communities, if the levies were being pushed for tax incentive to pay for that, directly defined as this is what this levy is for, is to provide school with better motherfucking security, potentially armed retired veterans, some shit like that, a plan for that, and it was introduced as a tax levy, I don't see the communities within the United States rejecting that levy. I think the people will come together to pay for that. You know what I mean?
Doesn't matter if the people came together, though. It's the politicians that passed the shit. The House of Representatives passed gun legislation 2 years ago for stricter background checks, and it died in the Senate. It's been sitting there because they refused to vote on it. It's 50 senators. You know what I'm saying? Steve Kerr said it when he was being interviewed.
Yeah.
Murder
Mitch McConnell.
Yep.
Marinated Mitch McConnell. You got
he ain't
company.
Marinated
Mitch.
at all. That motherfucker's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he the driest, most unseasoned fucking raw turtle you done ever seen out the lake. Fuck Mitch McConnell.
But we want to make sure.
They didn't put us in a category.
Oh yeah, we need to know. We need to know right now in this quick segment that we're going to develop right now in episode 45 of the Swanglin Show. You guys brought up Mitch McConnell, but he's not marinated. He's unseasoned. So we got marinated Mitch. So we want to know his thoughts on Mitch McConnell, and we're going to call it real quick on episode 45 of the Swanglin Show, Mitch on Mitch. What do you think, marinated?
That man ain't real, bro. Fuck that man, bro. That's all I'm going to say about him, man. He ain't real. He ain't about that life. Fuck dude, bro.
Now I feel fantastic right now that I'm joined by members of the illustrious motherfucking conspiracy family. Marinated Mitch is in the building. The king of the wings, CJ Dinero, is in the building. The Swanglin heavyweight champion of all time representing South Florida, MrGrippz, is in the fucking house. And also, Kyle, are you still on the line? The fickle freckle boy.
Yep.
I need to know, Kyle, what is your opinion as far as from a politics standpoint? Do you think that there ever will be better gun control in America, or like it make it harder for people to get guns?
Yes, I think it will. I think there's going to be better background checks. I think it's going to take a few more of these to happen. I think the funding for schools will come. I think we'll get that sooner. But what will happen is there's still going to be more shootings in public places to the point where they're going to start dialing down on these, semi-automatic, automatic weapons. I think background checks.
Kyle, you said that a couple more have to happen. Over, under, how many more have to happen before they fucking do something?
20.
20? Fuck out of here.
Yeah. Watch.
I agree.
The fucked up part about it is, it sounds terrible, but this is America.
Right.
How many have we had in like the last month? We had the Asian church get shot up, the racist shit that went down in Buffalo, and now a bunch of kids just got killed. And that's just 3. And it's been way more this year than we even know about.
Yeah, there was shootings in the synagogues earlier this year and shit. Like,
you also got to take into account just the daily threats. Like, not even 3 weeks ago, my son's school had a threat about it. You know what I'm saying? So
we had a threat in
just the
Cary
shootings.
2 weeks ago.
It's the threats too, because you got to take those serious too.
This simulation's fucked up. We need to hit reset on the fucking game system and go back. You know what I'm saying? unplug and replug. Like, what the fuck, bro?
Yeah. This shit is it's terrible, man. It really is.
But I see the funding for the schools coming. I see that that'll get done. But it'll take a few moments, or it'll take a year or two to implement all that. But I see that coming. But then these shootings will still happen in public places, and that's where we're going to be. We're going to see at the movie theaters and the bars, concerts, anywhere that mass groups associate. But eventually enough will be enough.
Now, do you guys think, man, this is like the 45th time that collectively we have swangled? You know what I'm saying? And we talk
already
about these. Yeah, this is the 45th swangle, man. You remember when? Do you remember when Michael Jordan came
Who was
back?
the first number one swangler on the first episode again? I forgot.
It was MrGrippz. MrGrippz was the number one swangler. He was
Continue,
the number one
my
swangler.
bad.
But it's like, okay, Jordan came back and he rocked the 45 and he went off as the number 45. And this is episode 45 of the Swanglin Show. Joshua P. Dunn, joined by Kyle Newkleus Holsinger, the fickle freckle boy living in the sea. Marinated Mitch, the fucking king of the wings, CJ Dinero, in the Swanglin heavyweight champion of all time. MrGrippz, like he said, the original swangler, the number one swangler. And
if we talking Michael Jordan jerseys, I'm definitely rocking that 23. If Prof wants to rock the 45, he can, but he ain't coming for it. You know what I'm saying? He done slid back a little bit on this one. He got knocked out the playoffs right here. Oof. There boy go.
On episode 45, you see that Marinated Mitch he just lined it all up, and we're gonna close it out on that note. So you make sure you're going to swanglin.com. You're following everybody on the Swanglin Show. That's MrGrippz, that's Mitch Millions, that's CJ Dinero, that's Newkleus, Joshua P. Dunn. Even Stan, where you at, man? Vice Grip is taking shots, man. We're lining up an epic fucking head-to-head matchup for the fucking Swanglin heavyweight champion. And did you see that? How he just went from complete leisure pose to full flex in one fucking motion? That means the Swanglin heavyweight champion.
They trying to come for the title. We ain't putting it down right now.
He is on top of his shit, man, and he's sitting on top of that fucking throne, and he wants to know which one of you little son of a bitches is going to come take the fucking championship. Could it be episode 46 of the Swanglin Show? We never know. Joshua P. Dunn is going down.